Oh, is it time to record? Don't mind me, I'm just dealing with FOMO. Fear of missing out during COVID-19. I guess I can get up and record. Hey everyone, it's Brettina. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So you know how during COVID-19 there got to be a point where everyone just started going out again. You know, and people started going to theaters, people started going to restaurants, and you may not have been ready for that. I know I wasn't ready for it. There are still things that I'm not ready to do just because, I'm an ex-smoker. I have family with underlying conditions. I'm not trying to risk anyone's life. So there are certain things that I'm just still not doing. Now, with me, I don't know about you, I have extreme FOMO, otherwise known as fear of missing out. So that's what this is about today. Ways to get over it when it comes to COVID-19 at least, because this is a little bit of a different situation. Like I said, some of us have family members that have underlying conditions, or we ourselves are scared of getting COVID. I mean, it's a scary thing. And even though people love to say, well, if you're young and healthy, you'll be fine. I mean, yes and no, because if you're young and healthy, you may still have an underlying condition that you don't know about. We can save all that for a whole different conversation. Right now, what we're going to talk about is how to deal with that FOMO during COVID or fear of missing out. Number one, remember your why. Why aren't you going out while everyone else is deciding to go out? Is it because you're doing it for a loved one? Is it because you're doing it for your own health? Is it because you still have a lot of anxiety when it comes to COVID? Is it because the pandemic has given you this chance to really heal and stay inside and you're still working through some of your own things? When you know your why, it strengthens your no, not for other people, but for yourself. So when people ask you, hey, do you want to do this? You can say no with more strength and not feel guilty or have FOMO about it because of the fact that you know exactly what you're doing and why it's best for you to do what you're doing. Number two is consume less of other people's lives. According to behaviortherapist.com, FOMO is linked to higher usage in social media. I wonder why. The more you consume of other people's lives and the more activities you see of them doing on social media during the pandemic, the more you're going to feel like crap about yourself for not doing those things, which is what fear of missing out is. It's basically feeling like crap because you're afraid and upset and anxious that you're missing out. So the less time you spend on social media, the better. What I do is I try to limit my time of how often I consume other people's content. And I also have a block schedule that I use where I can figure out exactly when I'm going to watch other people's content, and I mentally prepare before I even start to watch stories and before I even start to consume other people's content who I know are currently doing a lot of traveling, doing a lot of partying, and doing a lot of other things. I, of course, still want to check on my friends, but the most important thing is definitely my mental health. A third tip is look to healthy hobbies. A healthy hobby that I've picked up that isn't actually a hobby, it's more of a passion of mine, is working on my monologues. I have one right up there on the wall. When you're doing something you're interested in and you get so absorbed in whatever it is, you're not spending as much time on social media looking at other people's lives. You're empowering yourself and making a healthy impact on your own life. You can also move around. You can dance around your house. You can find safe ways to work out with friends. The trick here is doing whatever you feel is comfortable and practicing discernment, listening to your body, and knowing what's going to be best for you. So this is my fourth one, and this one is extremely important. Don't accept guilt trips. Guilt tripping is a people pleaser's worst nightmare, because if you're a people pleaser, you're much more likely to give in. And if you give in during a pandemic, when you actually have these healthy boundaries set for you and you know exactly what you feel is right and what you feel you should and shouldn't be doing, here's some things that I do when somebody's guilt tripping me. Communicate. Let your friend know that you don't want to do this. Have a firm no, and just make sure that they're respecting your boundaries, because you're allowed to have boundaries and nobody should cross those. Take space. If you feel like you're being guilt tripped, or if you feel like you're not being heard on your boundaries, take space. You're always allowed to take space from friends, family, and other loved ones. Remind yourself of your why. This goes back to my first point. When you're firm in your why, it's much easier not to people please. Number 5, spend time with people who mirror your values. I'm sure you have friends who have also been distancing during the pandemic. Spend time with them, whether that's on Zoom, whether that's through call, or if the weather's getting nice, you can always do some sort of a distance walk with them. I love spending time with my friends who mirror my values during this time, just because then I don't feel that added pressure. And also we end up talking about some of the hobbies we've picked up, the workouts we've been doing, or the Netflix shows we've been watching during the pandemic. So it's always a good time. Number 6 is talk to your therapist about it. If you have a therapist, please talk to your therapist about it, because they're able to offer different perspectives on how to deal with FOMO. Also, if you're looking for a therapist, I'm going to be giving some resources in another video, but I also have some resources down below. Therapists have tools for everything you deal with. So when you're talking to your therapist about the fact that you have fear of missing out, they can not only remind you of your why, especially if you already have that rapport built with them, but they'll also have some different tips on things to do when you're hanging out at your house. So number 7 links back to something we all could use a little bit more of, which is mindfulness. Number 7 is savor the moment. Those little moments that we take for granted, like sitting in a chair in the sun and reading, or hanging out with your cat, that's one of mine. Cherish those moments, live in those moments instead of just going through the motions. Be mindful and present of what you're doing. If you have to say it out loud, if you have to say it in your head multiple times, bring yourself back to the present moment so your mind doesn't drift off to things that give you FOMO. Story time. So I naturally just have fear of missing out. I've always that's why it takes me so long to make a decision. Also because I'm a Libra, most likely. I'm afraid that if I make a quick decision, I'm going to miss out on something. And so FOMO is part of my life that I've had to really work on reining in. And of course, I still have times where the FOMO wins and I'm in the corner, like you saw at the beginning of the video, just sitting there chilling. So a lot of the time when I'm on Instagram and I'm seeing these stories of people in Jamaica, I saw one where somebody was in Jamaica and they were having the time of their life and they were out, it was nightlife, and I was like, wow, I really, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the sad. I'm feeling the irritated. But what I do is I remember the steps I told you about and I enact them. I stepped away and I remembered, okay, you're having a reaction, your body's having a reaction, you've hit your social media limit, time to stop. Time to get off social media for a second. Time to reel it in and take a break and go do something you love. And so I put on some music and I started dancing. I danced all around the house. I put on my Savage. I put on my Up. I put on my Sugar Honey Iced Tea. And I danced around this whole house. And what dancing does for me is it brings me back into the moment. It calms my body, and anything that gives your body some life and movement just helps push your mind in a different direction than the spiral it was going down. You're always welcome to hit subscribe. See you later.